The Alpha Sessions with Ron Laver.
I'm very pleased to welcome today Katy Hurt to Alpha Sessions. Hello, Katy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. You're looking very well today.
Thank you very much. I made an effort for you guys.
Yeah, we do appreciate it. You're from London originally, aren't you?
Yes.
But that's not where you are now, is it? I don't think.
No. So I've moved all over the place, but I was born in London. I grew up in New York, and then I moved back and lived in Surrey, and now I'm currently in the Wirral.
Right. So what are you doing in the Wirral?
Just the opportunity presented itself to be up here during lockdown with my guitarist and Gab, who I write a lot of my songs with, and so I figured it would be a great place to kind of bolt hole and focus on music while we were stuck at home. And we've been able to live stream every week ever since, so it's been pretty good.
We'll talk about your live streams a little bit later. I've been really enjoying some of those.
Thank you.
So okay, you told us your personal, where you've lived and that. New York, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Were you born in London? I mean, you're
Yes.
British.
So born in London. I'm British Lebanese, actually.
Right.
My mom is Lebanese, but so I grew up in between London and the US. So I got the best of both worlds.
Yeah. And what about the musical history then? Where does that go back to? How did that start?
So I definitely have my parents to thank for that, and also just the circumstances I had being able to travel and see both the States and the UK from a very young age. But I was one of those babies that never slept. I was dreadful. And my parents worked out when I was very young that Patsy Cline was soothing. And so they just raised me listening to old school country crooners like Jim Reeves, Patsy Cline, Glenn Campbell. So literally from birth, that was what they used to use to to get me to go to sleep as lullabies. And then being in the States and kind of just hearing it on the radio, I just kind of fell in love with it. That was just the music that surrounded me. And I've been very fortunate that my family are huge musical fans. They're not musicians themselves, but they just love music and were always taking us to see shows and concerts and musicals and, and listening to records like Elvis. And so I just kind of grew up in a world that had a lot of music going on in it. So I kind of fell in love with it from a very young age.
I mean, really, after that start, you had nowhere to go but country music, did you?
Yeah, no, I didn't make the choice. Country chose me.
So in New York, when did you end up back in the UK then?
So we moved just in time for me to start, I think it was year 4.
Right.
Or maybe slightly earlier than that. But yeah, so I kind of went to school here and then did the rest of my schooling.
Yeah. So that's year 4 in primary school, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so all right, you obviously grew up with a love of country music. So when did that sort of move a step further and you started playing, writing, I guess?
Yes. Well, the writing actually came first. I always, when I list the things I do, it's always singing, songwriting, then playing guitar and the instrument side of things. I started singing at a very young age, about 5 or 6. And I was in a lot of the school theatre productions. I did Annie and the Little Shop of Horrors, The Sound of Music, all those, the standard school plays. And I was just any opportunity to sing I was in all the different choirs I could possibly be in, after school clubs. But I started songwriting when I was about 10. So I actually still have my very first songbook, and it's dreadful. I think the first song I wrote was about Scooby-Doo. It was appalling, but it says Katy's songs do not open, risk of death. It's the full thing. It would have had a warning sticker on it if I could have got my hands on it. But
all that and Scooby-Doo, it marks an era, doesn't it? It puts it in where you were at that time. Yeah.
But I started writing about 9 or 10. And they were just stories, mainly stories. But I loved singing them to my parents and singing them to my friends, and it just kind of developed from there. And then my 13th birthday present was a trip to record 3 songs in a recording studio. It was like one of those, like, you buy the little session and you can
Yeah.
go in and
Yeah.
sing for a day.
What a
And I ended
treat.
up, yeah, I just fell in love with it. Like, I went into the studio and, you know, they showed me all the different microphones and gave me the big headphones. And I think I sang Before He Cheats by Carrie Underwood
Yeah.
and a Christina Aguilera song. And then I did one of my own. And I was just like, well, this is amazing. I want to do this all the time. And so I've just been singing. I think the first time I released music, I was like 13, 14. So I've been putting out my own original music for a very long time now.
Mm. So how has lockdown been? I mean, I know you've been, obviously you've been singing since early age, but I mean, you've got music on Spotify,
Yes.
etc., back from about 2016. So you're a fairly well-established artist in recording and releasing. So
Yeah.
how did lockdown hit you? What was it like?
So although I haven't been able to release as much music as I would like, and I'm working on a lot more releases coming up, which is super exciting. I think the one thing I've always done more than anything else is touring. Like, I'm a live act. That's what I love. I love being on stage and actually getting to sing to people, to share the stories behind the songs, to kind of see their reaction. In 2019, my band and I did 155 shows.
Wow.
And I didn't think it was enough. So I was like, guys, we've got to work harder. So for me, the hardest part has been not getting to actually engage, like not getting to do that every week. It's been great in terms of having time to kind of, because I was barely at home the previous years, to actually sit down and be like, oh, I can write, I can have more time to write, and I can have more time to be creative, and all that kind of side of things was pretty good for it. But the thing I've missed the most is actually just being out on the road and doing what I love and seeing people, and which I'm sure everybody has, and just going to concerts and going to see music. So that's been really difficult for me. Just I adapted by doing live streams, but it's not the same singing to your own laptop as opposed to a crowd of people.
Yeah, and the feedback's limited, isn't it? I know people write comments, and which must be great, but it must be strange finishing a song to silence.
Yes, I found myself, like, I giggle, like I get nervous, so when I'll end the song, I'll start giggling because I'm like, I don't know what to do. I've definitely had to kind of adapt, and it's been really hard for a whole number of different reasons. But yeah, doing the live streams and having to wait for emojis to come up instead of actual applause, things like that. But I have to say, I have the most incredible fans, and they've been so supportive throughout lockdown, and having watched the live streams every week and sharing them and all that kind of stuff. So it's been really great to see that the community is still there, even if we can't be together in person.
And certainly, as the speaking for the audience, it's been great for us as well. Again, can't wait to get back to a proper live gig somewhere.
Oh, I just want to go and see other people play now. I'm like just anxious to be, in a club or in a venue with sticky floors and waiting in a queue, and there's a tall person standing in front of me and all of that. I'm excited to just be out again at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some of your recordings. I mean, you had a fairly successful EP release in 2019 with Unfinished Business.
It's so hard for me to believe that that's now 2 years ago, because it feels just like the other day, and like I still can't get over how time has passed since that record came out. But yeah, Unfinished Business, it was a long time in the making. I had started writing, so all the songs on that EP were co-written with Gab Żabka, who's the guitarist in my band, and we had started writing together, I think, in 2016. So we worked on those songs for a very long time, and we were very, very lucky that we managed to work with Murray Pulver, who's an incredible producer out in Winnipeg, Canada, of all places. So we flew over to Winnipeg to record that, and it was like minus 25 degrees while we were doing it, and it was just such an incredible experience.
One song on that that EP was "See You Later."
Yes.
One you're going to do for us today. Tell me something about that track.
So "See You Later" was actually, it started out as like a breakup song called "I'll Be Seeing Ya," and it was named after a street name. We were outside of a venue once, and it was Abyssinia Close was on the road. I was like, oh, "I'll Be Seeing Ya" would be a good song title, but it never kind of worked out. It just kept being too cheesy, so we shelved it for a while. And then I was out with a friend of mine, and she's like the sassiest person I know, and some guy kept hitting on her, and at one point she turned around, she just went, "No." And I was like, oh, I know what the song needs to be about now. Like, I have to write about this. So I called Gab, and we finished it, and it was called "See You Later." So yeah, I'll play that for you guys.
Mr. Persistent, keep your distance. You must think I was born last week. Think you're pretty cool, irresistible. It takes more to sweep me off my feet. Oh, Mr. Mister, you never listen. You're just waiting for your turn to speak. But I've seen how you act. That's the reason that we ain't never ever gonna meet. Up for coffee when you ask me for the third time. Ain't even started, but I'm leaving saying goodbye, baby. Oh, baby, there's no maybes. I know you won't give me your world. I'm not that different from the other girls. So don't even think about chasing me, I've heard those lines before. It sounds like a devil knocking on my door, and you don't get my love for free. So see you later now. I'll see you later now. You're insistent that you're committed to do what it takes to win my hand, but you let it go as soon as you know that I'm calling you my man. I've been there before, picking up the pieces for my friends who let themselves believe those babies. Oh, baby, there's no maybes. I know you won't give me your world. I'm not that different from the other girls. So don't even think about chasing me, I've heard those lines before. It sounds like the devil knocking on my door, and you don't get my love for free. So see you later now. I'll see you later now. See you later now. I'll see you later. Oh. You made him playful, but you're not the one for me. Baby, there's no maybes. Yeah, baby, oh baby, there's no maybes. I know you won't give me your world. I'm not that different from the other girls. So don't even think about chasing me, I've heard those lines before. It sounds like the devil knocking on my door, and you don't get my love for free. So see you later now. I'll see you later now. See you later now. I'll see you later.
The Alpha Sessions with Ron Laver.
How did you end up with a Canadian producer?
Yeah, so have you heard of the Bros Landreth?
Don't think so, no.
Okay, so they're an incredible band. They're called the Bros Landreth. Joey Landreth also has a solo career as well. He's an incredible guitarist, and they had an album out called Let It Lie, which we were just obsessed with. Me and the whole band, we used to listen to it in the car all the time. And when it came to choosing what, we were going to record, where are we going to record, who are we going to record with, what do we want to do, I made a list of my top 10 favorite albums, and I was like, let's just see if we can get in touch with the people that produced those records. Like Mutt Lange was on the list, who did Shania's album, but like some of them were pretty crazy, but I was like, I'm just gonna see if they'll reply, if I can even find contact details. And I happened to get in touch with Murray, who did the Bros Landreth record, And he Skyped us that same evening. He received the email. He was like, "I'd love to talk to you guys." And he just got it. He understood exactly what we wanted to do. He seemed to be on the same wavelength, and we just made the decision to go out there and see what happened. And it ended up being the best decision I've ever made. Getting to work with those guys at Stereo Bus Recording Studios, and Paul Yee was the engineer on that EP, and I've gone back since and worked with them on my debut album, which is currently waiting in the wings for its release. But yeah, that's how it all kind of happened.
Well, it's incredible, and what an experience.
Absolutely. And like, we got to go and see polar bears while we were out there, so like the whole thing was just magical.
Fantastic. And the interesting thing I understand about that album was you then came home and you made some videos to go with the tracks, or some of the tracks, didn't you? But you didn't think that England was quite the quite the place to make them. So having been in minus whatever in Winnipeg, where was it you then?
So I don't like to do things subtly. I like to go from one extreme to the next. And my original plan, I really wanted to shoot like a mini Western for the song Revved Up, which was a song that we actually started writing at Carfest. We played Carfest, which is the Children in Need festival that happens. So we had come up with this title for a song called Revved Up, and we thought, what a great country song title. That'll be fun. And we thought, well, we have to do we need explosions, we need a desert, we need all this kind of stuff. And I looked into the cost of going over to Texas or to Arizona to try and film there. And it was out of my budget. Everything on that record was completely self-funded from the shows that I have done over the past few years. So, and I was very lucky. I did a Pledge music campaign, which ultimately didn't work out because Pledge collapsed. But my fans also tried to help support the record, and it would have been, even bigger had that worked out. But I wanted to do this video, and we couldn't afford to go to the States. And I have an incredible director. His name's Ryan Say. And he was like, well, they shot all those spaghetti westerns in Spain, right? I was like, wait, what? They did them in Spain? And it turns out that a load of those Clint Eastwood movies were shot in Spain because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, we should go. So my band and my friend Leah and Ryan and his incredible assistant and another videographer named Dylan, we jumped into 2 Jeeps and we drove all the way from London to the middle of the Spanish desert and filmed our own mini Western. I never expected that video to be as good as it was. I can't even, every time I see it, I'm like, how did we do this? Like, Ryan and Dylan just were the best. Like, it was the best experience. And yeah, so it's pretty cool that we managed to go from one extreme of Winnipeg cold winters to the Spanish desert in the same year, and actually be able to do that song justice the way that it ended up having.
Yeah, that's a great video. It's a good song.
Thank you.
You mentioned it earlier. You're working on a new album.
I am.
When do we expect that to be out?
Honestly, I don't know yet. I went and recorded it in January of last year. And then it was supposed to be, I was meant to spend all of last year kind of putting together, the videos and the photo shoots, and it kind of all got delayed a little bit. So it is in the works, but I don't know yet. And I want to be able to tour the moment it can come out. So I think I'll probably wait until things are a little bit more certain before I start releasing it. But I do have 2 new singles coming out before then as well.
There's no more work to do on the album. I mean, it's, you haven't got to do any overdubs or things.
The music is done. Yeah. The musical side of things is done now. It's just everything else that goes with it that needs to happen. The last thing to go on was the strings. So I think we managed to get the strings on in August, which is very exciting for me. So I finally have strings on a song, which is I'm very much looking forward to.
You've got the completed album. We can't hear it.
Yeah. Soon though. I promise it will be with you as soon as I can possibly get it to you.
Do you have a title for it yet?
I do, but I haven't released it.
Okay. All right. Well, there's a couple of tracks that I know you've been singing lately,
Yes,
and both of them you're going to sing today. Are they both going to be on the new album?
they are. Yes.
Well, that's good because they're both really good songs. Tell me
Thank you.
about Sounds Good in a Bar.
So this is a true story. Working or being a musician is not exactly the most lucrative business, especially when, in my mind, I want to put everything I do into it, and all the money I earn goes straight back into creating music or watching music, buying guitars. So it's difficult sometimes, and I have worked, I don't even know how many different part-time jobs, full-time jobs, assorted, work experience. And my whole band they all have jobs as well. And so we've all worked really hard to be able to kind of arrange our lives around music. But sometimes there are definitely moments where that gets really tiring. And a lot of my friends who are musicians as well, it's not the only thing they do. It's not sustainable to make a living off of it independently. So I was working as a waitress at the time that the song was written, and I'd had a really rough day. And I got in the car and I wrote the first verse of this song, which literally starts with waiting tables, making small change in a jar, and like going home with like £2 in tips and just, hoping for better days. And so this was a true story that kind of stemmed from being able to take the hardships and put them into song lyrics and be able to kind of make people sing along from that. So I'm really excited for people to hear this one. It's called Sounds Good in a Bar.
Waiting tables, counting small change in a jar, writing tall tales on a napkin in the car. I'm not a poet, and I know it, and I may not be a star. Taking failures, finding ways to make them sound cool, drinking too much, and always acting like a fool. Falling down, it sure ain't fun, but it sounds good in a song. I can make the best of any mess. I can tell a lie and then confess. If I could just get the crowd singing along,
The Alpha Sessions with Ron Laver.
It's a really nice song. I really enjoy listening to that.
Thank you.
And I doubt whether I'm the first person to have told you you've got a very Dolly Parton type vibe to your voice.
Thanks.
Is that something you've worked on?
Do you know what? It's not something I planned. I think I'm just the kind of artist that wears their influences on their sleeve. And I studied her growing up. So I just wanted to be Dolly Parton. So I think I've just absorbed it. But I'm really, really glad that it comes across, because I think that she's great.
Yeah, and so the music you write, I mean, certainly sounds good in a bar. Your explanation there, it's your experience. Is that in all your songs? Do you have to have sort of lived some part of the story?
Most of the time. I love stories. I think being a storyteller is such an exciting way to look at the world. And I think that's one of the things that makes country music so special, because it's fundamentally about telling a story. Whether that story is you're having a party and having a drink, or, you know, you're getting divorced, or, you know, you've had a hard day at work. It's just kind of an everyday life thing. So I try very hard to draw on my own experiences. That being said, I haven't actually experienced those things. I've never been divorced. But I definitely try and put as much of myself into the songs. My co-writer Gab and any other co-writer that I work with, we all try and put parts of ourselves in the songs, because it makes them honest. But if not my story, then it's something I've watched or seen or heard, or, you know, it's from the latest episode of whatever TV show I was watching, and I've related to the, you know, Grey's Anatomy or Desperate Housewives or whatever it might be, and just kind of taking it on board. If it makes you feel something, I think you can write a song about it, even if you haven't lived it yourself.
And I guess if you can get that feeling, it's
Absolutely.
more likely it's going to feel the same to other people who can relate to it.
And it's really quite magical, because sometimes you write the songs and they're very personal. Like Unfinished Business was probably the most honest I've ever been when writing a song. That's definitely something I'd experienced. And you kind of don't realize how similar all of our experiences are until you hear a group of people singing it back to you. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you get it. You understand how I feel. And that's a really magical moment on stage, whenever you get to hear someone sing it back, or someone come up to you and say, oh, you wrote about how I was feeling. Because that's, when I was growing up, that's what I loved in music, when someone would sing something and I'd be like, that's exactly how I feel. How did they know?
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to achieve that, even if it's a character. Like, I love character songs as well. Like Cheap. I don't know if you've heard my song Cheap from my Pieces EP.
Yes.
Every time we play that, I love like getting to joke around with the audience, because I put myself into like a different headspace, almost like musical theater in that respect. So I have like my little characters for each songs, and I just tell their stories.
That's interesting, because I was just thinking then about asking you about how you feel about opening up. So is there a bit of sort of like, I'm acting this out as well? I
love sharing those songs, like, and sometimes it takes us a long time to write them. Like Unfinished Business, that happened pretty quickly. Like it was just a truth. So it was an easy song to write. It didn't take a lot of time. But there have been other songs that I've had to work on them for a really long time, because it's almost too painful to talk about or too uncomfortable. And I don't quite know how I feel about it yet. So I haven't wrapped my head around it enough to put it into words. And then sharing that can be difficult. And sometimes it can be really emotional. I've cried a couple times on stage, because I've been too in my own head when I've been singing, and I've been thinking about the like reason behind the song, and then I've accidentally started crying or gotten too emotional. But then there is an almost protective element to having these characters, and the narration behind the story is sometimes helpful. But it's usually more for the fun songs that happens. Like the songs where they're a bit more sassy or a bit more like the partier songs are the ones where I can kind of like switch and be like, you know, a slightly different version of myself to perform them. And I get to, you know, wag my finger at the audience and kind of get away with a little bit more. Like, you can just be a little bit cheekier. And I'm a little bit more introverted. I'm very talkative, but I'm a little bit more introverted in person. But then when I'm on stage, it's like I can be exactly who I want to be in the moment and then get away with it. So I think that helps.
Yeah. We talked about you doing live streams.
Yes.
And you've done quite a few, but the one that I really was drawn to was the Honky Tonk Hump Day series, where you go back and talk about all the history. As soon as I saw that series of videos, I was hooked, and I've followed them all the way through.
Thank you so much.
And it's really good to see someone of your age. I talk as an old man here. It's really good to see someone as your age, actually, and British, and actually recognised in that sort of history of the country music, which, if you follow it back far enough, it becomes British and sort of like Scottish and Irish.
It came from the Isles.
Yeah, exactly. And so what drew you to that?
So I actually did my very first live stream of this whole like lockdown situation in March of last year. We were supposed to be playing at the C2C festival, and we were really looking forward to it because we had 4 slots across the whole weekend. So we were going to be playing twice a day, and it got cancelled last minute. And we instead were asked to play a show called Buck and Bull, and they'd thrown like a last minute party for everyone who had traveled down to see C2C. But backstage, because I felt so bad about the fact that I knew that I had some fans who had traveled to come see us at C2C, and the fact that it wasn't going to be happening, I said, well, let's do a live stream backstage and we'll just say hi to people and we'll let them know that our slots won't be going ahead, and just kind of talk to people. We ended up playing a couple songs, and everybody said, you should do this next week. Like, we want to keep in touch because we were going into a lockdown. So I ended up doing a live stream every Saturday, pretty much. I think we missed like 4 or 5 Saturdays, but pretty much all the way through until December. And then I took a tiny break because we had a flood. And while we were on our break, Gab and I had been thinking about, what can we do to make this more interesting? We've been doing this for nearly a year now. You know, there's only so many times you can play your own songs in your living room without people leaving. You know, it's like, I love doing them, and of course they're my songs and they're my babies and I want to share them with the world. But I felt bad that I wanted to make it as interesting as possible for people. And I happened to be watching at the time the Ken Burns country music documentary, just because I love country music and I have some time on my hands. And I was like, well, what if we, you know, did this? What if we did another live stream and we kind of showed people the history of the music that we love? Like, so Gab and I started looking at all the artists we love and tracing it back. And it kind of ended up taking us all the way back to the beginning. And then we went through the Ken Burns thing and we kind of made some notes, and we were like, okay, well, let's just start in 1920s America and go from there. And we'll just play our favorite songs and we'll talk about our favorite artists, and we'll kind of do like a mini history lesson. And it was partly just to make it more interesting for ourselves to kind of learn some new songs each week and give people something slightly different, and, you know, be able to have a series that I could upload to YouTube so that it kind of helped create some content since we're not doing other stuff. And it's kind of taken off. It's kind of been crazy. And I've had so much fun. We're on episode 6 or 7 now, I think. We've reached the 1960s. In fact, Dolly Parton is the next one coming up. So I am thrilled about that. But yeah, it was kind of just like a selfish, I wanted to sing the songs and kind of do a little retrospective. And I'm really glad that people like it, because that's the music that I love, and that's the origin of everything I do. So it's nice to be able to share that with people and have them, I guess, understand why I fell in love with it, and how the genre is so diverse and how there's so many different incredible artists out there. So it's been really fun.
And I guess you picked that up. You picked up probably from the late 50s, early 60s, certainly from your parents when they were playing things like Patsy Cline to you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and what I, again, there's two types of songs you sing in those shows. One is you'll sing some of the original old classics, and then you'll do one of your own, or I don't know whether you write them especially or you just adapt that fits that style of that period.
Yeah, so I don't think we did one last week, and it's a little bit hard sometimes because having now given ourselves this extra homework project, trying to write a song a week in a specific style is sometimes, it's sometimes tricky. But the first couple of weeks we were just like, well, let's make it even harder on ourselves. Let's write a song in the style of Jimmie Rodgers or in the style of Patsy Cline, and just see if we can. Just, because most of the time they're just story songs and it's all decoration. It's just like, okay, we're going to play this one with that walking beat. This one we're going to play more swung if it's like Bob Wills style. And so it's been fun experimenting. And I guess like it's been a little bit like a brain exercise of like, can we write in these different styles? I mean, from one extreme to the next, is apparently a theme, but on the lockdown live stream side of things, which we are also still doing on Saturdays, the other day, everybody kept asking me I said, send me your requests, and we got loads of rock songs and metal songs. And I jokingly suggested to people if they wanted it enough, we would do a metal week. Metal week has been one of the most viewed, most commented videos. I was like, guys.
You did a Led Zeppelin, didn't you?
I went from Jimmie Rodgers to Judas Priest, and it was just like, what is happening? But you know what? It's quite interesting, actually, even with doing the Metal Week thing. I had never listened to the lyrics of a Judas Priest song or a Black Sabbath song. I've listened to the songs before, but I'd never sat and read the words. And when you take them for face value, most of them are pretty good story songs. So I was like, well, if you played this with a banjo and a fiddle, you could probably make it a good country song. And most of them are sad songs anyway, so that kind of leans my styling. So yeah, it's been really fun just kind of experimenting with the live streams and with different kind of sounds and seeing what people enjoy.
Do you think then you'll bring that into your live set? Well, maybe you will. I was going to say not necessarily.
What, Judas Priest songs?
Yeah, maybe not that one.
Maybe not.
But I mean, like I say, these songs, either the ones you've written or even some of the originals.
Maybe.
Because I'd love to be at one of your concerts and you played, Crazy.
Well, Crazy, actually, it's funny because Crazy is the only cover I had done. Like previously, I'd had a rule about no covers because of the fact that because country is so small in the UK, it's a genre that's well established and people have been doing it forever, but it's not one of the mainstream styles of music here. So a lot of the time when I'm calling up places and trying to book shows, they'll say, oh, you do country and Western, and they'll want just a covers show. And when I explain that I do originals music, it can sometimes be tricky. So I had previously had a no covers rule just to kind of separate it from that. But there have been shows that we've played where my want for playing the songs has kind of overridden that. And Crazy is the one song that does that to me. So we have an incredible bassist in our band called Joe. He plays the double bass. And the moment he started playing with us and playing the double bass, I was like, we have to do Crazy with the double bass and the acoustic and everything. And we've played at the Green Note in London, and we played it at 45 Vinyl in York, and a whole bunch of different places. So that is actually one of the songs that had previously been in my set. But other than that, I hadn't prior to lockdown. But actually, I would never say no. And I think it just depends on the show. I mean, when we're playing festivals, we always try and include at least one upbeat song that people will know, just because if they've never heard of us before, then we want them to still enjoy themselves and dance and have fun. And so I think actually I now have a much more diverse pool of music to choose from. And I've definitely made a list of the songs that we've done on Honky Tonk that are now like officially my favorites, that I would definitely consider. Selfishly, I grew up listening to Patsy being my favorite singer. So I love doing those songs, and I always try and that's why Unfinished Business and Natchez, which are, I had 2 ballads on one EP because I was like, well,
I love them.
I need both. Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of like, I need both. I need to have moments in the set where I can just wail on a sad country song like Patsy would. And so that's kind of, even though we play Revved Up and Natchez in the same set, they're very different songs. I think they're both huge parts of who I am. So I think it makes sense.
And they're both valid. It's good to have a
Yeah.
mix. Absolutely. What's on the horizon now for you in the sort of the foreseeable future? I mean, we've got the LP coming out sometime.
Yes.
Is it going to? I call it an LP. Is it going to be a full album, or is it going to be a more of an EP?
It's going to be a full album.
Right. Great.
13 tracks, and it is actually going to be on vinyl as well.
Oh wow.
So it will be an LP. I printed Unfinished Business on vinyl too, because I have a record player and I just love listening on that format. And we also did it on cassette too. So yeah, it's going to be full length. I don't know when it's going to come out, but for the foreseeable future, I have 2 songs that I'm currently working on. One I wrote and recorded with my band, but all separately in our own houses during lockdown. And another which I have some guest vocalists on that is like a little fun lockdown project. So those should be coming out pretty soon. And then I do have some shows scheduled for the end of this year that have been rearranged and kind of pushed back. So fingers crossed they actually get to happen and I get to leave my house. But I guess we'll see with those. We just have to wait and pray that they're allowed to go ahead.
One of those is the O2 in Islington, isn't it? Is that one of your planned ones?
Yeah, so November, it's my headline show at the O2, which I'm really hoping that one goes ahead, because that will be an amazing venue to be able to headline. So fingers crossed.
Well, I hope that all works out for you. And
Thank you.
yeah, it's been really interesting talking to you today.
Thank you. Back at you.
It's nice, yeah. And you got one more track to play for us today.
Yes.
The Kiss, another one which is, you said, going to be on your new album. And
yes.
Tell me the story on this one before we go.
So this one is, I call it my summer song. It's not actually about summer in any way, but it's one of those songs that, like, the moment I wrote it, I was like, I would want to listen to this with the top down, full volume on the radio, kind of like singing into a hairbrush type, like you'd see in a movie. And I think I was falling in love for the first time when I wrote this song, and I just had the first kiss. But when you have it and then you go, oh, this is exciting, something's happening here. And so I just wanted to have that girly movie moment where they jump on the bed and sing into a hairbrush, and it could be used for a montage. I was like, I need a song that sums up how happy I am. So The Kiss is my kind of fairy tale love song, for want of another way of describing it. Yeah. But
got some true elements in there as well.
Yes, yeah, true, very true elements. I think it's 100% true, and I've the person who it's about knows that it's about them, so it's fun for me to sing that one just because it makes me smile just thinking about it.
Okay, Katy, if people want to learn more about you, and I do urge them to go on your YouTube channel and hear those back look at the old days.
Honky tonks.
The honky tonk.
That series is going to be continuing as well. So the next episode will be coming soon, and my live streams will also be continuing. I think until I'm fully back to touring, I'm going to try and do them as much as possible, just because it's so much fun.
And where can people find you other than on YouTube? Where else can they keep in touch with what's happening and where you're going to be touring?
Pretty much any social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Spotify, and my website, katyhurt.com. You can sign up to my mailing list as well. I never spam for the mailing list. So I won't email you random things until something is actually happening. Because I know people get worried about that. With they don't want random emails. But yeah, so katyhurt.com, and it's Katy with a Y and Hurt like the injury for anyone that doesn't know how to spell my name. And then just the usual places on all the streaming platforms.
Okay, Katy, thank you very much for your time. And
thank you so much for having me.
You're more than welcome. And hopefully one day when you're back in London, you'll and things are back to normal, we can get you out at our studios and do
I would love that.
live chat and play some more music.
That would be amazing.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.